Hello, welcome to this video tutorial for Clickteam Fusion 2.5 from the ClickFusion Academy. I'm Danny. I'm going to show you today on how we can create like an end screen, like a win screen. So these kind of screens you've probably seen popular in mobile games such as Angry Birds and tower defense games. And it's when you get to the end of the level and you get a reward. So you get rewarded, usually your score is based on stars. So um, if you did at the low end of the scale and you didn't do so good, you'd probably get 1 star. If you did all right, you get 2 stars, and if you did really well, you get 3 stars. And then obviously you score and everything else that's on there. So I'm just going to quickly show you in Fusion 2.5 how you can achieve something like this. Now, I haven't prepared for this tutorial as such. I've got a few graphics lined up. But I'm going to do this on a whim, so this is exactly how I would do it. So obviously there's going to be some trial and error thrown in here, it's not going to be straightforward, but it's going to show you how I would approach something like this in Fusion. So the first thing I have got is some graphics here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in the star, because that's going to be probably the main focus of this. So I can just drag the image into Fusion and then select active like that, and there we go, I have my star. Now this here is just a makeshift background as if it was the game itself. So what I'm going to first of all tell you to do is create a new layer here, a layer 2, and you can even give that a name if you want, so we could call it win layer. And I'm going to drag all these items apart from the game itself onto layer 2, so I can now hide layer 1 if I want, just like that. So what else we need to bring in is I have in win here, got a table, so I can drag that in as well. I'm going to keep these as active objects. Well, it's a little bit big, so we're going to size this down. Let's do about there. That should be good enough. Let's just arrange that horizontally and vertically. Alright, so our star is behind, so let me just order and send that to the back. So we've now got our star here. Star's a little bit small, I'm going to size it up a little bit proportionately. I'm going to stretch and resample it. Let's bring it up to 64. How's that looking? Yeah, that looks alright. Let's go to 96. There we go. Perfect, that'll do. Alright, so I'm going to call this star 1. Star 1. Nope, nope. Right. Something else that I want to do here, but yeah. Okay, doesn't matter for now. Doesn't matter for now. Right, so what I'm going to do now that I've got my star objects here and I've just set a few of the properties here, such as we don't need to use fine detection on collisions and stuff because we're not using any of that kind of stuff today. So I'm just going to clone this. I'm going to go ahead and clone this. I'm going to clone it twice. There we go. And then this one here, star 2, which I'm actually going to rename to star 3. Oh, I'll tell you what we could do, actually. I could just rearrange them. Probably be easier. They need lining up anyway. Alright, so this is star 3. Let's go for that. Put that a little bit towards the top. There we go. Alright, star 3, star 2, star 1. So this is all based on what kind of score you get. Now we've got this active to a hit when people leave objects with the default name such as active. So let's get it renamed just so we know what we're dealing with when we get to the event editor. So we're just going to call this win panel. I'm going to go to a couple of properties again. Uncheck destroy object when too far from frame. Inactive if too far from frame. No. And deselect. Use fine detection as well. I'm just going to save this like that. Now unfortunately I can't share this MFA at the end of the tutorial with you because these graphics they're not up for distribution, so but obviously the video's here so you can follow through, see how this kind of thing will be done. Right, let's make sure that these are spaced apart. Alright, there we go. Alright, star 1, star 2, star 3. I'm just going to make star 3 a little bit bigger just so it emphasises it a little bit better. Let's go for 109, see how that stands. Yeah, it's a tiny bit bigger, that'll do. Right, so we've got our layout pretty much done. So what do we need to do? Well, if we run the game, you'll notice that everything is visible, everything's running. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select all three of these objects, and I'm going to click on Effect here. I'm going to select Standard, and I'm going to select Monochrome. So these are blackened out, they're greyed out for the time being. There's a reason I'm going to do that as well. Now on mobile, you can't use these shader effects. I think you might be able to use the standard ones actually, but they can be a bit sluggy. I can't remember. But if you can't, all you have to do is just edit your star in your favourite graphic program, and just create a yellow version and a black and white version, and then you can switch between the animation frames. But for now, I'm just going to use the shaders for the PC. So as you can see now, when we boot up, they're all greyed out. So the first thing I need to do is drop back down to layer 1. Let's hide layer 2, and I'm just going to drop in 3 buttons. These are going to be our buttons for testing. So end level 1 star. And I'm going to call that 1 star in there as well. So now I'm going to clone that down. So now this will be 2 star. So it'll be end level 2 stars. And this one will be 3 star. End level 3 stars. Say that again. Alright. Just going to put a bit of space in between these. There we go. Let's check that out. See how that looks. Yep, looks good to me. Alright, so now we're going to use these to trigger the end of the level so we can see what's going down here. So what we need to do is, first of all, I'm going to create a global value. I'm going to call it star level. And then I'm going to create another one that's called player score. We'll get to that later on as to why I'm going to use that, because you'll probably need this in your game. Alright, so what do we need to do? Let's have a trigger. So I'm going to have a trigger. If you notice, if you're a member of the Academy, you'll notice that I like to do things in stages, and it enables you to track and debug your events in Fusion 2.5 a lot more clearer. So let's call it win stage. So win stage is going to be 0. So basically, it's not the end of the level. So the reason, what we do is in our events is we tell Fusion when it is the end of the level by setting win stage to 1, and that way we can get the ball rolling then. So the first thing we need to do is get the button. So button clicked, 1 star. What we need to do is to change the global value and set. We're going to set star level to 1, and then we are going to do set win stage to 1. So now when I click this button here, it's going to trigger, well, it's going to change that global value win stage to 1. So now we know that it's the end of the level, and we can do our events to stipulate what happens. So I'm just going to quickly copy this event down twice, and I'm going to change the button to star 2, and the same for star 3. So we now have all 3 buttons as separate events, and I'm just going to change these. So it'll be star level to 2, and for this one it'll be star level to 3. Now we know how to deal with it. So what we do is we insert a group of events, and we'll call it end level. We're going to disable that because we're going to activate it ourselves, and we're going to do that with an outside event here that says compared to a global value is win stage equal to 1. Add a new condition in that same event that says group of events check for activation end of level and negate it. So basically what this event is saying now is win stage equal to 1 and this group is deactivated, we're going to tell it to activate it. So we'll just simply do group of events activate end level. So now any events that we put inside this group here will only fire off once we've told our game or our app that it's the end of the level, and we do that just by setting win stage to 1. So what we can do now is we can insert a layer object. We can drop this anywhere outside the frame. It's a non-visible object, and we can do a starter frame. Let's drag that to the top. So to start a level, what we're going to do is we're going to do layers by index, visibility, hide, and we're going to hide layer 2. So when I run the game now, you can see that our panel and our stars is not there. So we just hide all that at the start. So the first thing we do is an event that says only one action when event loops, and we need to make sure that these stars are hidden at the start, because we don't want the user to see them. So we do layers by index, visibility, show layer 2. So we can test this in real time as we go along now. So when I click this, you'll notice that it brings up layer 2, it brings up our end panel, which is the first thing that we need to display. So now I'm going to have two things I'm going to do. I'm going to do a built-in timer. I'm going to call it int_timer, and the second value I'm going to create is a cooldown. We'll get to these in just a second. So this int timer, you may be wondering what that is. I'm just going to create an event up here for it. So insert a new event, and I'm going to do always. And basically what happens here is I'm just going to always add 1 to int timer. So when I run the game, you'll notice that int timer is constantly counting up. And the reason why we use this, again, if you're a member of the Academy, you'll probably know from some of the other tutorials that I've done, is we're creating our very own little timer where we can, rather than using the built-in Fusion 2.5 clock where we go every 5 seconds or every 3 seconds, because sometimes the frame shift can knock that out of sync, we can use an actual real-time frame counter, and that's exactly what this is. Fusion games run typically at 60 frames per second, or whatever you've got your app set to here at the frame rate. And what happens is sometimes it might not produce 60 frames a second, or it might overproduce. So what we do is we count each frame as it's rendered. So if it's producing 60 frames a second, every time a frame is drawn, or every time the engine loops round, we're going to add 1 to that int counter, and that enables us to use that. I'll show you later on when we come round to it. Alright, so what do we need to do? We know what kind of star level we have because it's set in here. So what we do, I'm going to use that counter now just to show you what's going on. So what we do is we look for win stage to be 1, and then the second thing we do is add a new condition in that event and do compare to general values. This is how you use it. What we do is we retrieve a global value, int timer, and then we type in mod, and then we type in a number to divide it by. So for example, if I do 20 equals 0, that means that every 20 frames this event will trigger. So I could now do visibility, make object reappear. So I can make all the stars reappear when the counter is divisible by 20. So what happens here is when I click that button now, it's going to display the end panel, it's going to hide the stars, and then after 20 frames it's going to show the stars. So you should see a slight delay between the panel showing and the stars. And sometimes, let's try and restart that. Sometimes you might not get the delay. We might need to increase this number here to 60. Let's give that a shot. There you go. So we get the panel, we get the stars. And then what we can do is we can set win stage to 2. This tells us now that we've done all this, that we've shown the panel and we've now shown the stars. So now we can do our events for win stage equaling 2. So the first thing we do is win stage equals 2. We need a counter. Let's have a counter. Show stars. So what we need to do now is we need to light up the stars based on the number of stars that we've collected, or based on our score. So if we have two stars, for example, we don't want to show 2 stars straight away. We want to show 1, and then we want to show the second one, if that makes sense. It'll probably make sense once I've done it. So win stage equals 2, the timer equals 60, and then we also need to check what the star level is. So we do compare to a star level, and we do star level is lower. Let's do equal to. I'm just pausing for a second here because I'm just thinking of the approach that I want to do. There's a couple of approaches I can do this. I can do this a little bit longer but a little bit easier for you guys, or I can do it a little bit more advanced, but it might baffle your brain a little bit. So I'm just trying to think what the best way to approach this would be. I think I'm going to go down the easy route because I'm going to assume that there's more beginners watching these kind of videos on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to go down the easy route. I'm not going to go the advanced route. In the advanced route, I could probably do this in 2 or 3 events, but it'll probably take a lot more explaining, and I don't want to throw you guys into the deep end too quick if you are a beginner. So what I'll do is we're just going to compare the star level then. Let's just say that the star level is equal to 1. Then all we have to do is we're just going to light up 1 star. So let's. This is my mind going in overdrive. I'm trying to think how I would normally do it, but I'm trying to do it in a different way so you guys understand. So we'll do show stars equals 0. Let's do it that way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change the effect. We're going to change the ink effect here to none on star 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 to show stars. So let's give that a shot. This should be for 1 star. Here we go. Let's give it a shot. So the stars show, and that happens. Alright, so you'll notice it happens straight away, and the reason why that is because mod 60 equals 60 at the same time that this event does here. So we can simply, I think we should be able to get away with that. Let's try that. There we go. I'm just going to increment it a little bit more. It's just to add a longer delay. The bigger the number, the longer the delay you're going to get. So now here we go. We've got the panel, we've got the stars, and we should have 1 star lit up. There we go. So we're now showing the user that you've got 1 star for that level. So what we can do now is we can do our second event. I'm just going to copy this event down to here. Just let's say that star level equals 2 and show stars equals 1. Then what we do is we light up the first one. And then, if show stars equals 1, we then light up the second one. So let's just try that now. So for 2 stars, so we click on 2 stars, we get the back panel, and we get the stars lit up, just like that. Now you'll notice that they both lit up at the same time, and again, that's due to this counter here. So we can simply change that. Let's change it to something that's not divisible by itself. So let's do 2 stars, panel, stars, 1 star, and 2 star. There we go. So you can see how easy it is in Fusion to do this. Now we just need to comment this here. So I'm just going to put 2 stars because these 2 events are for the 2 stars. This event here is just for 1 star. So now we need to do our event for 3 stars, or events even, which are pretty much the same as these 2 for the first one because we need to show up the first 2, but we need to remember our star level needs to be 3 this time. And we set that up here when we click the button. So we've done that, and then we just simply copy this event down here, and show stars is 2. We then need to light up our 3rd star. So don't forget to change the mod value as well. Alright, let's give it a shot. So we go 1 star, and there's our 1 star. Let's restart that. Let's go for 2 stars, 1 and 2, and finally we get 3 stars, we get the back panel, we get the stars, we get 1, 2 and 3. There we go. So if you wanted to add some more special effects to it, I might as well do that while I'm here. on these last events here, we know that that's the end of the effect here, as you can see. So this is the end of the effect. So we can simply set the win stage to 3 at the end of every one of these. So we'll just quickly do that now. Set win stage to 3, and again for the last event here, we'll set win stage to 3. And what this enables us to do, again, doing everything in steps, we do something like compared to a global value, is win stage equal to 3? In fact, we can drag this event outside here. Let's get rid of it from in there. So we can close this group now, because we're just going to detect, is win stage equal 3? Do special effect. We'll close this at the start. So we'll do win stage equals 3. What we're going to do is we're going to deactivate the end level, because that effect is done now. So win stage equals 1, we open up this end level, we display the panel, we display what stars we're going to show, and then we simply close the group because we don't need to do anything more with those events. So when win stage equals 3, we just need to make sure that end level is activated. Then we're going to tell it to deactivate. And then we need to create one more event outside the group that says win stage equals 3, but star level equals 3 too, and special effect is not activated. Then we simply activate it. So hopefully you can keep track of what's happening here. We're just running top to bottom. We click a button, it sets the win stage and it sets the star level. It opens up the end level group, and it shows the stars based on what the star level is. And then once we've shown the stars and how many stars the user got, we then set the win stage to 3, which closes this group up. It doesn't do anything else. Unless star level is 3, then we're going to open up this special effect group. So what we're going to do in this special effect group? Well, first of all, I'm going to get one of the stars here, and I'm going to clone that down, and I'm going to get rid of the monochrome effect, the shader effect. Let's put that to none. There we go. And I'm just going to size this down as well, so it's a little bit lower than this. So let's go for 16. There we go. That's better. Much better. Alright, so you may be wondering what we're going to do with this. Well, what we're going to do with this is when the user has 3 stars, that means they've done the best that they possibly could in that level. They've reached the best possible score. Then we're going to have a load of stars explode on the screen that come out from that star. So I'm just going to check that the hotspot is in the center of this which it's not. So I'm just going to see whereabouts that is. That's at 53 and 57. Now, need to not create these. Oh no, we do create that one. Sorry, my bad. Let's get this star 4. Here we go. Let's not create it at start, and let's give it a movement. So for this effect, I'm probably going to use the pinball movement. Big fan of the pinball movement, and I'm going to set all the directions to up, apart from directly up. I'm just going to put them at funny angles like that, and that should be pretty much it for that. So as you can see, no matter what I do at the minute, everything just works the same. Star 4 doesn't have any effect. We're going to create that special effect right now, and it's going to happen inside do special effect. So this is where the cooldown is going to come into play. So the first thing we do is limit conditions, only one action when event loops. We're going to do set, and we're going to do cooldown, and let's give it again, we're running at 60 frames a second, so we know that 1 second equals 60 frames. So if we want this effect to run for 3 seconds, we would set it to 180. So let's do that. Let's set it at 180, and then we need a new event that says compare is cooldown greater than 0. We need to always subtract 1 from the cooldown. So I'm just going to quickly show you how this works. So if you keep your eye on the cooldown value here, I'm going to click 3 stars. It's going to show the stars, and then it's going to set cooldown to 180, and it's going to count it down, as you can see there. So for them 3 seconds, our effect is going to run, and it's going to run based on what we put in here. So again, it's we're going to use this internal timer that we had earlier on. We're going to do compare to general values. We're going to retrieve a global value, which is the int timer, and then we're going to say mod, and let's go for 25 equals 0, and then we're going to simply do create object star4. Let's create it relative to this at 53, 57, which is the center of the star. Let's just see how that works for now. See what happens. So we get our stars up, and there you go. So you can see the kind of cool effect that we can implement into this in Fusion. Now, that's way too big of an interval, so let's drop that down to 5, and we should be creating more stars at this stage. Much better, much better. A lot better. Right, okay, so I'm going to create another little cool effect for you. I'll show you now. So star 4, we're going to create an alterable value inside star 4 that says dir. I don't think we can use that word. No, we can't use that word. It's a reserved word. So let's just use direction. Can we use that one? Yeah, I can use that one. So in this event here where we create the star 4, the small one, let's do alterable values set direction to random 2. So this is going to give it a random number of 0 or 1. And we can use that effect now here because we can do alterable values compare is direction equal to 0. We can then do on the star angle, set angle to, where are we? Its current angle minus 2. Let's go for maximum quality. And then we can just simply copy that down and say is the direction 1. We can do angle of the star plus 2. So it's going to change the angles. So when I run the application now, you'll see this effect come into play. We do 3 stars, we get 1, 2 and 3, and then now you might not be able to see because it might be going a bit fast, but these stars are actually rotating. If it's 0, it's going to rotate to the left, and if it's 1, it's going to rotate to the right. And again, you might not be able to see, yeah, I can see it here looking on the screen. You guys might be able to see it. If you just pick one that comes out of the star and then follow it down, you'll see that it's rotating. So there's still not enough stars there for me, so there's a couple of things you can do here. You can just copy this event down here and do this. But the other thing that I also want to do is I also want to make sure, so I'm going to create an event inside this group that says always, and I'm going to make sure that star 3 visibility is always ordered to the front. So the stars now get generated behind the big star, just like that. So you can see we have a windscreen done, which is completely mobile compatible, apart from the shader. I can't remember whether the shader effects are or not, but everything else is completely compatible. And you can see there, in literally less than 30 events, a couple of them are comments as well, we've managed to create this cool effect. And then we also just need to do one last thing, which is just detect that cooldown equals 0. So we do lower or equal than 0. We then do not add to, come on. We do set, we do win stage, and we'll set it to 4, and we'll deactivate the group. Do special effect. Now quickly, just before I finish up this, I always have in every game development or anything a garbage group, and basically what the stuff that you put in here is just stuff that that, like for example, if an object leaves the screen and needs to be destroyed, put all that kind of stuff in here, and always put it at the end of the tick as well, which is the bottom of the events. So if you keep this group at the bottom of the events, you can do stuff like, well, if I just show you quickly, if I click on this, watch the object count up here. So it's 8 objects so far, and when the stars start getting created, can you see the object count is increasing quite a lot? It's up to 104 objects, and they're still there, but once they've left the screen we don't need them, so we can put that in here. We can just simply do an event that says position, test position of star 4, has it left the play area at the bottom? We can simply do destroy. So now when we run that again, we're at 8 objects, we go up to 40 summit on average until the effect stops, and then all the stars have been destroyed. And this is just a great memory management tip for Fusion, because you don't want objects that the user can't see being off the screen unless absolutely necessary to keep there. They don't need to be there. So there you go. So there's the effect with Fusion 2.5. Unfortunately, I can't share the MFA with you on that, but hopefully you've learned from this video just exactly how you could create something like this, so simple with Fusion 2.5. So your game would be running in the background, and then as soon as the level is finished, you know that you can simply trigger all these events off just by setting the star level and the win stage to 1. I hope you enjoyed that video tutorial. Don't forget to check out the ClickFusion Academy. That's at allthews.clickfusion.academy. There is loads more. There is over 19 hours of video footage and video tutorials, and there's loads of written tutorials and downloads for you guys as well. There's going to be all sorts in there. But thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for this channel to get some more tutorials coming up for Clickteam Fusion 2.5.